Ok. Buenas tardes. Los organizadores de este evento tienen la firme determinación de facilitar la comunicación bilingüe en la reunión de hoy. Mi nombre es Mojde y mi cointérprete es Irwin y estamos representando a la Cooperativa de Justicia del Lenguaje Tilde. Y hoy estaremos ofreciendo interpretación simultánea inglés-español, español-inglés. Good afternoon, everyone. The organizers of this event are firmly committed to facilitating bilingual communication in today's meeting. My name is Mojde and my co-interpreter is Irwin, and we are representing the Tilde Language Justice Cooperative. We'll be providing English-Spanish, Spanish-English simultaneous interpretation. Si usted se unió a la reunión usando su teléfono, por favor asegúrese de entrar con el app de Zoom para poder acceder a la función de interpretación que ya ha sido activado. If you joined on your phone, please join on the Zoom app so that you can access the interpretation function, which has already been activated. Please note that this function is not available on Chromebook. Esta función no está disponible en los Chromebook. Si usted no es bilingüe, puede seleccionar su canal de idioma haciendo clic en el botón de interpretación en el globo hasta abajo a la derecha si usa una computadora o en los tres puntitos si está conectado por teléfono. Seleccione español y luego picarle en finalizar. If you're not bilingual, you can select your language channel by clicking on the globe on the bottom right-hand corner on interpretation if you're using a computer, or the three dots if you're connected by phone. Select English and click done at the end. It's important to activate this option if you're not bilingual, since some participants may speak in Spanish and then we'll be interpreting that into English. Algunas pautas para crear un espacio multilingüe. A few guidelines for creating multilingual spaces. Por favor, no hablen muy rápido. Please don't speak fast. This happens especially when reading a presentation or excited, nervous, or running out of time. Also, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. También, si no están hablando, por favor, pongan su audio en silencio. Por último, les vamos a recordar que por favor hablen una persona a la vez y en un idioma por oración. Lastly, we remind you to please speak one person at a time and with one language per sentence. Estos espacios se crean con el apoyo de todos. Por favor, comunique cualquier problema por la ventana del chat o habilitando su micrófono. Gracias por crear este espacio multilingüe. We create these spaces with everyone's support, so please communicate any issues by chat or turning on your volume. Thank you for creating this multilingual space.
Thank you so much. I am standing in for Austin. My name is Anne, for those of you who haven't met me before. I am not as funny or charming as Austin, but I will do my best. I am sharing my screen because we are doing a, this is instead of our PTA meeting this month, so we do have to make it a little bit more official. I'm going to officially call this meeting to order at 6:05. And we are going to approve. Why isn't it letting me do this? Sorry, guys, I'm having some technical difficulties. There we go. We are going to approve the agenda as read. So this is what the agenda looks like. Could I get a motion to approve?
A motion, Denitra. A second.
Thank you. We approved the previous meeting minutes via email, so we can skip over that. We've got a few announcements from committees before handing it over to Mr. Witowski. First is the Advocacy Committee is doing the drive to get supplies for Southwest for the reopening. Thank you to everybody who has been contributing thus far. If you would like to contribute, we'll drop the link to do that in the chat. If you are buying items that you are not going to purchase from the wish list, but want to donate anyways, please email me and we can coordinate that. And there's also some different options to make donations if you'd prefer to have the PTA shop for you. We'll also drop links to those in the chat. We have a book fair. there's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm not expecting anybody to be paying attention to the book fair this week. This was scheduled before the board changed the plan. But there is information on our website about it, on the Facebook page. It's going to be open and live for 3 weeks. So you have plenty of time to do your shopping. The more we spend, the more Ms. Suchek will get to refresh the school library. So it's a win for everybody. The nominating committee is accepting nominations now. The form will be open through Friday, March 26th. If you are interested in nominating yourself or somebody else, please do so. The PTA works best when we are all working together. So we would love to have you join us on the board next year. The Spirit Committee, the t-shirt sale was a big success. The Tar Heels won. It's no surprise. Deborah Grassick, you are the winner of the $50 Team Store gift card. We will reach out to you to coordinate that. Mr. Witowski, your Tar Heel colored shirt is on the way, and I am sure Ms. Ebony has some plans for you in store. So stay tuned for what those are. Staff Appreciation is putting together an event to welcome teachers and students back to the building on Monday. So on Sunday, March 14th, that's this coming Sunday, weather permitting, at 4 o'clock, you can meet with your masks on, social distancing, we'll have chalk, and we can do a lot of really nice big drawings to welcome everybody back to the building on Monday morning. And last but not least is the Volunteer Medical Corps. You've heard us mention it a few times. There are no opportunities to volunteer in the building this year, but if you are looking for ways to support the community, if you have a medical background, if you don't have a medical background, if you're comfortable with on-site or off-site, there are lots of volunteer opportunities to help with the screening for kids in the morning, as well as taking care of sick kids during the day if you are a medical personnel. So please, we'll drop links to the chat in the chat for these. So please sign up if you are interested. You do have to be a DPS registered volunteer, which includes getting a background check. So if you think you might be interested, go ahead and sign up and start that process, because it can take a few weeks. Board of Education has their meeting on March 11th and March 25th. And our next PTA meeting is on April 13th. The town hall, there are documents to view some frequently asked questions, as well as the YouTube channel to watch the last one if you missed that. And then after that, Mr. Witowski is finished with the town hall, we'll have our Seahawk parent, Nakikia Wilson, doing a presentation on mental health and wellness. So that is everything for me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass the torch over to Mr. Witowski.
Thank you, Anna. I appreciate it. Well, good evening, everyone. It is great to see faces. I always like to see kids too in the background, and I got to see a couple as you guys were joining, so that was nice. First, I just want to thank you all for joining today and coming back out, and a lot of familiar faces. And we've had lots of great questions from you guys, but I know there's still thousands and thousands of other questions that we have to answer. I also appreciate the PTA. You guys have done such an amazing job facilitating these processes and helping keeping families involved, and I really appreciate that. So the two documents that Miss Ebony will put in the chat, or already has put in the chat, please make sure you look at those. Those town hall questions, I believe now there's maybe 8 pages of questions. So I'm not going to spend my whole time going through that information, but that document will be a living document, and we will continue to update that. So as you all have questions, submit them to PTA. They will get them to us, and we will continue to update that document. You all can also always email me if you want to, and I'd be happy to kind of give you some feedback individually if it's something that you need. If you guys remember back when we did the survey, you know, I had asked for families that if this was working, the virtual learning for your family to try to stay virtual, that was to help keep the number of students in person down so that it was more doable. we want to make sure that every family had the opportunity to make a decision. That was important for you all to have that input into what that decision was. We have 245 students returning to in-person learning. And I have to be quite honest, that feels really doable. You know, we've been working with the staff, looking at our class numbers. And as we're working through this process, just really thinking through, what does this look like? Because it looks different than what we're used to with school. And safety is always the most important thing that we want to keep in mind. And, you know, with 245 students, when we're used to 650 or 680, I think it's going to be a lot easier to manage and to keep people safe. So as we're thinking about arrival and dismissal, we're talking about a little over 100 kids each for buses or for carpool. So those processes are all in place. Excuse me. Those processes are all in place, and we sent that out in the parent document to you guys. So I wanted to just make sure that everybody has seen that PowerPoint. If you have not, it's there. But the process that we went through at Southwest is, after we had our student information, we actually had lots of feedback and input from our teachers. And this has been a very controversial back and forth, you know, decisions have been made and then changed at the district level, at the board level, almost at the state level. And we may not be done at the state level yet, but the whole time I was communicating with my teachers, and my staff had input into what our plan looks like. Recently, our superintendent has adjusted a little bit, and he's done a really nice job of giving principals school level decision-making power to do what's best for our staff and our students. And they've done that along the way, even to the point of accommodations, because some of our teachers may have health accommodations. I can tell you 100% of the folks that I've worked with that had accommodations, I was able to work one-on-one with to figure out what is the best scenario for them and for our students. We have differentiated those choices amongst each grade level and even teacher to teacher. I have a few teachers that are only going to teach in-person students. I have a few teachers that will only teach virtual students from their house. The teacher will be at their house and they'll teach virtually like they are now. Majority of my teachers are going to be doing a blended model. And we've worked with our staff to kind of talk about what does that look like. And, you know, there's going to be some times where we have to adjust, but we've been working with our coaches and our teachers to come up with those plans, and our staff's ready. I mean, we are excited to see students back. We are not ready for 650 yet. You know, this is a nice baby step back into the building. So I appreciate all of you. I know it's tempting, and I've gotten a couple requests to change. You know, I want, now I feel comfortable, I'd like to change. You know, it's a complicated process to put all the things in place to bring a student back in person. So the district had said on the 24th when it closed, we wanted a commitment from families to stay that way for the rest of the year. And we're going to ask you guys to try to stick to that. I also know that emergencies happen. And if you have a big emergency and something has to change, I am open to you emailing me privately and we can kind of talk through it. But I would prefer to not make too many changes if we can, because it is a very complex, Ms. Flores likes to use the term Rubik's Cube and puzzle that we had to put together. And I really am excited about the plan that we have in place for you. Wanted to talk about just a couple things. We have to do it differently right now at Southwest during these times. Usually families can park their car and walk your kids to your class. And right now, we're not going to be able to do that. So we've put that in the guidance document of what that process looks like. If you don't have a carpool tag, please call the front office and we can help you with that. And we will continue to add, because I think one of the parents on this call actually caught the afternoon pickup, we still want you to, in the past, we would have you guys all come and hang out in front of the school and you would talk to each other and socialize. And then at dismissal, you would take your children and go about your way. But we are going to ask this year that everyone come through the carpool circle. So if you're a car pickup, you have to go through the carpool circle. We will allow early dismissal if you have to pick a child up. 2:15 will be the cutoff for that time. So we're going to ask, we've changed a couple things for this school year due to the special circumstances that we're in. Ms. Flores, was there anything else in the chat that I have not covered? I do want to open up for questions also. I think we have a small enough group that I will be happy to entertain questions, but the guidance document is going to be a good point of reference along with the town hall questions. Tori, was there anything in the chat?
No, the question related to carpool and dismissal was an excellent one, and I have already updated it. It's on slide 14. So, and I have given that information to Mr. Geraldo, who is correcting our Spanish version, so that we can make sure we have that clear. So that was an excellent question.
Yeah, so I will open it up to questions. If you want to use your features that you have and raise your hand if there are any questions. We're still working through some minor details, from the school perspective. And, quite honestly, it feels like the week before school starts. The first week before school starts for educators, it's crazy. It's busy. It's full of information. And it's really what it feels like right now. I don't know how my teachers are feeling, but they've been doing a great job continuing with instruction. And they will be getting their classrooms ready and will be abiding by all the safety precautions. Looks like there's a question in the chat, Ms. Flores. So as far as the specials go, we will have in-person, so the specials teachers will be doing a blended model also. The in-person students at school, some of the special teachers will push into their classroom and some of the classrooms will take to the specials classroom, and the special area teachers had input into that decision also. Once they're there, they will teach that blended model just like they would a regular classroom teacher.
And the information has been included in the document, but the special classrooms that we are using are our largest classrooms in the building. And for our smallest classrooms, that will still be the largest spaces. So it's our media center, our art room, and our music room. So those are the ones that we are going to for specials. The next question is, will kids be escorted to class in the first week? I have a kindergartner that has not been to school and of course hasn't been to her class.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we will have all hands on deck when it comes to staffing, and we will be guiding the students through the hallways. As they arrive, they have placed circles on the ground that remind students of what the 6-foot distance is, and we will be supporting. So the entire staff at Southwest will be on duty at their doors or in the hallways to support students, because we know, we have about 50 students coming back in kindergarten and they've never been in our building. I think some helpful tips that you could do for your child, if it's a kindergartner, to be quite honest, for any child, is to put on their book bag their name and their teacher's name, so that as they're in the hallway, usually our older students are very comfortable communicating who their teacher is, and we will absolutely guide them from a staff's perspective. Sometimes our kindergartners are shy and they don't know us as well. So that might be helpful so that we can help guide them and get them to where they need to be.
The next question is related to teachers. I know we answered this in the Q&A, but most people probably haven't had a chance to read it. When do we find out who their teacher will be? And this one also, will an IEP learning be in person or online?
Yeah, so the teachers will be communicating with their classes. We have been very fortunate to keep majority of our students with their classroom teacher. Not many have had to change, but we have had a couple scenarios where they're going to change. In second grade, I know we have a couple students that were staying virtual that we're going to combine, and Miss Williams, one of our teachers, will take on a totally virtual classroom. In third grade, we had a couple students that we had to move around, but the teachers will communicate with you shortly, probably tomorrow, if there was a change, but there were very few changes to classroom teacher. Was there another part of that, Tori?
The next question is related to blended teaching model. So what does the blended teaching model look like? And for core instruction and specials, how will virtual students engage with the teachers on site?
You want to handle that one, Ms. Flores?
I can, I'd be happy to. So teachers will be looking at, so our instructional blocks are staying the same. So students will have a very similar schedule, other than in kindergarten and first grade where we actually added a special before lunch. So they'll still have literacy and math, which was something that the school board had asked for us to have for all students before lunch every day. But the specials will happen because we had so many students in K2 who were returning. It would have not been physically possible to do a special that was a combination of K2. So we were able to create a kindergarten special block and a first grade special block. And so they will have separate specials. And then within that time, you will have a similar structure to what you're seeing now in a blended classroom. So they'll still have the whole group mini lesson with their classroom teacher. So the students who are in the classroom will engage in that mini lesson, and the kids that are on the Zoom, they call it, one of our teachers called them the Zoomers and the Roomers, ROOMERS, will be joining in together. So there's a couple of different ways that teachers will kind of decide what works best for them. One teacher is going to have her Zoom lesson, her mini lesson, displayed up on her BrightLink, so that the kids that are in the classroom can join into that Zoom lesson on the Bright, rather than separately on their devices. Other teachers will have kids utilizing different formats where they mute if they're in the classroom, so that they physically do the things that we're used to in the classroom, which is a physical raising your hand and answering a question, while kids in the Zoom still use the raise your hand features to notice and show the teacher that they have a question. Part of that time will continue to be an application period where they are applying what they have learned. During that time, the teacher will be working with kids directly in the classroom and available to students like they are now through the Zoom. So students will be able to still ask questions, and it'll be structured, you know, it may look different in a kindergarten classroom versus a fifth grade classroom based on the level of independence. In our kindergarten classrooms, you may also have a period where they go into breakout rooms, which they've done already with students. And you may have one person leading the students in the breakout room, which will have virtual students, and while another teacher is leading the students that are in person in the building. The most important thing to pay attention to is when your child has small group time. So when they have small group time, just like they do now, they're either assigned a small group with the teacher, or they're assigned an asynchronous activity that they can complete independently and then submit to the teacher. If your child has a small group time and you're remaining virtual, you'll log into that small group just as if you were in the building with the students. And if the student is in that small group and they're in the building, they will join physically in that classroom. The other difference that happens with in-person versus virtual, we'll still be giving the virtual students that 15-minute break every 45 minutes because we know that their entire school experience is still online. So we want to continue with that best practice where we have 45 minutes that they're online, and then they have 15 minutes where they have a virtual device-free break. During that time, the classroom teacher in the building will be able to use those as opportunities for more community building as needed, continuing to build routines and procedures, review safety expectations with students, and make sure that we are abiding by the expectations that the district has asked of us, that we're maintaining those 3 W's, that we're reminding kids about the importance of wearing a mask. And they'll be able to use those as many opportunities to deal with things that we have to have with in-person students that virtual students do not have to worry about. They don't have to worry about wearing a mask because they're not with other students, whereas the students who are in person will have to get used to that mask stamina where they're having that mask on, other than when they're having their time where they're eating or drinking, or if they're having a requested mask break, or they're having time outside where they're socially distanced and they're still abiding by the 6 feet that the district is asking us to do. Mr. Otoski, did I miss anything on that?
No, that was really good. I'm going to go ahead and take the next question in the chat, and that is from Amy, and she's talking about confirmation for transportation. So transportation is still working on the bus routes. At Southwest, we have 245 students. I would say probably about 110-ish are bus riders. So when you submitted that, they're actually rewriting all the bus routes for the entire district. So that's obviously a pretty big task, and they're still working on that. So they're trying to get it to us as soon as they can. As soon as the district has the transportation bus routes, we will be sure. I would think they'll communicate them also, but I will communicate them out to all of our families so that you'll know what transportation looks like. If you are a bus rider, I want to ask for some patience and grace. I know that this is going to, the first week of school is always chaotic when it comes to those routes, and just, ask that you be patient with the bus stops and making sure that you're there when you're supposed to be and in the afternoon so that they can try to continue with those routes the best they can. If you have a transportation change, we'll handle that the way we always do at Southwest. You'll inform your classroom teacher. If it's 2 days a week, they ride the bus. Well, tomorrow I need them to be a car rider. You will just continue to use Class Dojo and communicate with the classroom teacher. The next question talks about drop off for before and after school. We will have before and after school care, and they will communicate the exact procedures, but you will have to walk your student up to the doors at least, for obvious reasons that when, in the morning and sometimes it's still dark, you'll have to kind of sign them in, but the before and after school staff will talk to you about what is that sign in and sign out process. I know they're also going to be operating on a lot fewer students, but that'll all be handled through community ed. So if you have specific questions and you're not getting those answered, please just email me and I would be happy to try to assist you in that process.
Mr. Otoski, may I add on to that a little bit?
Yep, absolutely.
So for any student who's entering our building, it will be important that they are responding to the attestation. That will be something that will be sent in email to you, and it's 4 questions. Our staff started with this process this week. So every morning before they leave the house, they answer 4 questions. Mr. Otoski and I do too. And as soon as you answer those 4 questions, you will get this. I'll see if everybody can see it. You will get this beautiful green check that says you are cleared to come to school. It only takes a few seconds, but that will be the same process for car riders. That will be one of the steps for bus riders, and that would be required for before and after school. So that is just your commitment, and it's district-wide to answering those 4 questions every day. And then what I do is I answer it on my phone. So then I have that visual right there. I can do a screenshot, or I can just keep it up in my web-based screen, and then I can, when you get there for before school or you're coming into carpool, you'll be able to show us, that you have that green check. And then the last step will be the temperature screening. And so it's a really simple process. If for some reason, let's say your internet went down and you can't access the web-based questions, we'll have those 4 questions here. And with our volunteer medical corps, we'll be able to get you through in the morning really quickly.
Ms. Flores, if you will be looking at Ms. Heiss' question to answer after I finish. I forgot the IEP in-person question. Thank you to one of my staff members for reminding me there was a second part to one of my questions. So the EC students at Southwest will be still working with their case managers. And just like the other staff, I am working with them specifically to look at IEPs to figure out what does the student's IEP say, and then are they in person or are they a virtual student? And we will have a little bit of all 3 of the methods working. There could be all virtual because the kid is virtual. There could be in person, small group like we normally do because the student is in person, or it could be a blended model also. So the case manager is someone that you would want to communicate with, and they will be communicating with you as the parent of what that process will look like for your student.
Sorry, I had to unmute. The next question is, what about if your child is working with an interventionist? She said she'll probably not be working with them, I guess that's the students, any longer, but he needs the intervention. So one of the, I don't know, Mr. Otoski, do you want to talk to the human resource element and with the accommodation? So if you're joining a bit later, and that was something that Mr. Otoski talked to earlier in the session, with accommodations for staff in the building that might require them to teach from outside of the space, we are having to utilize our certified staff throughout the building in a variety of ways to make sure that every in-person classroom has an adult that is supervising them. With that being said, we still have intervention as a dedicated block in our schedule. So classroom teachers will reassess the way that they are doing intervention to make sure that all students who need that support have that support. So the person that's providing the intervention may or may not change, but the need for the intervention will still be addressed by the classroom teacher.
We also have had to pull some of our teacher assistants to supervise classes in some scenarios. One scenario I will give you, just so you understand the level of differentiation. I have a teacher who has the accommodation request to be able to work teleworking from home. She will still be the teacher of record. She will still deliver the instruction for her class. All of her kids will keep the same teacher, but I have 4 or 5 students from that class coming in person. And we want to accommodate those students also at the building. So I will have one of our assistants will be partnered with that classroom teacher, and the assistant will be in the classroom with 5 students. The teacher will be virtual. The rest of her kids will be virtual also. And the teacher will collaborate with the assistant. The teacher will deliver all of the core instruction. And then as it's time for small group or other types of instruction, the assistant will support and work with those 5 students and possibly some virtual students. Any other questions? Is there, Tori, was there another one?
Don't see any, but the chat come through really quickly. So if you did put a question in the chat, I know Miss Ebony has also been helping us make sure we don't miss any. And we haven't answered a question directly. If you would like to put it back in the chat, I'm trying to make sure that we go through and don't miss any of the requests.
Well, and families know that, this is a ever-changing process. It feels like hopefully we have gotten some final decisions and we're now moving in the right direction. But as always, if you ever need anything, I want you to email me. Of course, check with your teacher. That's usually the right person. But if you need something outside of that, by all means, let me know. Send an email to Ms. Flores and we will be happy to assist. Looks like there's another chat, Tori.
They were asking if we could put the FAQ back in, and Ann is already on it. So she's already entered that back into the chat so that anyone who's joined the meeting has access to the FAQ with questions that families have submitted and responses from Mr. Ratoski and me.
Yeah, and Ms. Harwood actually made a comment that some parents are helping out in classes in different scenarios, and those are all virtual students that in classes that they're helping with. But we do have parent volunteers. Unfortunately, we won't be able to accommodate volunteers inside the building or visitors this year, but we do definitely have some parents that are great helps to some of our classrooms.
Ann, can you mention for a second, where are all the places that families can locate the FAQ? Where are the other sites that you are posting that for PTA?
It is right at the top of our PTA website. So that is swepta.com. That's probably the easiest one to remember, and just go visit the website and it is right at the top. So it's swepta.com.
Any other questions or anything else that we can do for you tonight? We're really excited. I mean, it's challenging times, of course. We have 11 weeks left of school. I have mixed feelings because I want to see all 650 kids at school. But unfortunately, right now we can't. But I'm also really proud of the plan we've put together. I'm proud of the support our families have given us. And I don't think we're done yet. I think we'll need more support. And as we need it, we will reach out and we'll work together. That's what I tell my staff is there's not a decision at Southwest that I make by myself. I have wonderful staff members that are with me that have input into those decisions. And though I make them, all the decisions fall back to me as the principal, but there's not one that I don't get input from others about. So I'm really excited. Our staff, we're ready. I mean, we're ready for, we have a couple minor touches that we have to make. Teachers still have to get into their classrooms and think through that process. And we're going to have some time tomorrow, Thursday and Friday for them to accomplish that. But we're pretty excited. And if you need anything, please don't hesitate to let Ms. Flores or myself know or reach out to PTA. But we appreciate all you're doing and looking forward to a smooth rest of this year. And then we'll start to shift and think about what does summer programming look like. There's been conversations that there could be some opportunities, although none of us have had time to think about it yet. But that is something that we're talking about, is how do we offer something like that so that we can close some of the gaps for our students. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, we do have a workshop coming up. We'd love to see. Okay.
Yes, please. Anybody who would like to stay, please join us for this workshop with our Seahawk parent, Nakikia Wilson. I don't know where she is. She is here, right?
Yep, she's here.
I am here.
Awesome. Welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So I am going to mute myself and turn off my screen because I have to run and do bedtime, and then I am going to run back here so I can listen to you.
Honey, look, take your time. When you come back out, y'all, I'll be ready.
Great. All right, you can take it away.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I actually thought someone was gonna be going over what this workshop was about, but it's okay. My name is Nakikia Wilson, and of course, as you said, I am the parent of a Seahawk student. Her name is Matea, and she's actually in Miss Ebony's class. And so I would like to just first say thank you to Miss Ebony for the referral. I really do appreciate it. This is a very good opportunity to share something that I'm so very passionate about, which is mental health and emotional wellness, especially right now with what's going on in the world and the whole pandemic. And it's just been, it's been a mess, to say the least. So it's really important that we take the time to focus on mental and emotional wellness, especially right now, and talk about some things that we can do to combat that. So I appreciate all of you being here and taking the time out your day to join this workshop. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to present to you regarding how, and tonight's topic is going to be about mindset. We don't understand, many of us don't understand the importance of mindset, and understanding that mindset is the catalyst to good mental health and the key to emotional healing. And so I'm going to try not to make this boring. It's not boring for me. It's actually something, like I said, I'm very passionate about. I'm very interested in this subject because I have my own personal story. And throughout this workshop, you will notice I am very transparent about my own journey with mental and emotional healing. So I too deal with diagnosis of mental illness. I have been diagnosed with, believe it or not, a grown woman with ADD. I have PTSD. I have panic attack disorder and anxiety. And so dealing with all of that, it can be a challenge, especially with everything that's going on right now with the virtual schooling, and the kids are between me and my ex-husband, and it's just, I'm still having to work, and I work 2 jobs, and I'm also doing this on in my spare time to promote mental and emotional healing. So it's a lot. And so I have to also be mindful of my own mental and emotional health. My journey actually started several years ago when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So that is where my journey began, because after that diagnosis, I began to really experience the symptoms of mental illness. And so I knew it was time to take care of that. And a lot of times we ignore our mental health and say, you know, we'll sweep it under the rug, we'll deal with it later, it's something that'll go away. But in my case, it wasn't going anywhere, it was getting worse. And I remember being in we were in my truck at the time, my then husband, and we had Mia and Makayu. Matea wasn't born yet. I think Makayu was maybe 2 years old. We were down in Wilmington, and I was driving on the road, and I don't know what triggered it at the time. All I know is that my ex-husband said, well, you know you missed that turn, right? And I was like, what? What do you mean I missed the turn? What? And I just lost it. And I didn't know at the time what was going on. All I know is I was crying, I was shaking, and the kids were looking at me, what is wrong with her? And so I knew at that time, after I realized how much danger that I placed I was in, and my family was in, and other people on the road, I knew it was time to handle that. And so I finally did go to the therapist, and that's when I received the diagnosis. But now I am on my healing journey. I've made it my mission to be the face, I would say, of the regular family or person, like, 9 to 5 mom working, just a regular average Joanne, and wanted to show that people, you're not alone in this journey, that it's not just you going through, and understand that there is help and there is hope. And so I'm really happy to be talking about why I believe mindset is important to your mental health and your emotional healing. Now, I have the PowerPoint presentation, and because I am not clinical, I like to give my disclaimer as a coach, because I want people to understand I'm not here to diagnose, nor am I here to treat. I'm here to share information and provide you with resources that you may need to get the help that you may need or desire. So I'd like to say that Kim Says Keep It Moving Coaching and Emotional Support Services does not treat or diagnose any possible mental health condition. Any information provided or changes you make toward your improving your emotional and mental wellness should always be discussed